Amin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We want to thank everyone very much for giving us their time and undivided attention. Today's talk, or this afternoon's talk, is ayats of Allah or signs of Allah. In the Quran, Allah says, I'll show you the signs in the universe and in yourselves. If anybody remembers that from the macrocosm outside that big universe, which is unlimited in size and reality, and variations, so many variations we don't even understand how many planets there are and what's the makeup of the planets. I mean, does it have oxygen, lakes, rivers, streams? Which one could produce life? Because we can see close like Mars and what have you, but they got planets so far out there that they just out there. Okay, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of that. All of that, Allah's creation are ayats for us. And when we don't know the details of certain realities, the fine print, we can sometimes look at the macrocosm. That means Allah's creation. That's what it means, ayat. Ayat, signs in the universe out there, the big space. And in ourselves, right? The microcosm. We can see certain signs inside of ourselves that are in accord with the grand scheme of things, the great external world. And so today, we want to talk about a few simple subjects. They might be simple, but they might be very, how can I put it? You know, just today and the other day, the last few days, I've been chasing brothers down to telling them about the temperatures in places like Seattle and Tacoma, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. And that's temperatures like 115. And it says that these temperatures are like 45 degrees, between 40 and 45 degrees above normal. And to some people, it's not a big deal. But I was in prison up in Washington, right there on the Puget Sound. It's called McNeil Island. It's right close to Steilacoom, Washington, and it's also not far from Seattle. And Tacoma is very close by. It's 70, 73 degrees, 75. It may get 80 degrees sometime. And you could see way off in the distance, Mount Olympus. I think that's about 14,000 feet up. So it's nice and snow-capped. But it was different from California weather because in the summer it would rain and what have you. like it does here, you know. But in California, they got two seasons, the wet season and the dry season. Like right now in California, it won't rain again until, if they're lucky, November and possibly December. So they're used to extremes in California. Wet season, dry season, fire season. And this is the fire season because it's June. Okay, the end of June going into July. That means it's dry everywhere. So there are warnings to put out fires. Put out your cigarette butts and those cigarettes out in the, you know. But when we hear the news about 115 degrees in Seattle and in Portland, the people that's not from there or that region don't understand how serious that is. And not that we're going to dwell on those subjects, but those are signs of Allah. They're signs of Allah. And remember, no matter how drastic the signs are, we're still leaving everything in the hands of boss man. Now I have a little something I want to just show for a second here, if I could pull it up. What is it? Da 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 da. There's something that, what do we call these little light messages? Well, it was there. Oh yeah. Here's one. Would you read this right here? Yeah. And then just scroll it up where it starts from, if you get any donations.
If you get any donation using our tax ID number, you will need to send them to Masjid in Oakland. If not, you are committing fraudulent behavior. This is what's going on at our Masjid, not the lies and slander you say about us. Alhamdulillah, Ramadan Mubarak. When we keep reading,
Yeah, keep
we can't wait for you to get out here. Alhamdulillah, when exactly? Unbelievable how things turned out about you, all those lies and slander about everybody else. Now Allah lets you expose yourself. All along, you was a rat and phony. Wow, wow. Alhamdulillah, after you lied, calling everybody a snitch, you now tell the people to join the FBI. You was always a big joke, fake and phony. You could never be a Malcolm or Martin or anyone else, LOL. Allah Akbar. He took you down to nothing, all those lies and slander and falsifying the deen. Now he forced you to reveal you've been working with the police and snitches, destroying community while everybody else was trying to practice Islam for real. I'm so grateful to Allah for protecting and guiding us. Please call back, very important, slander. Now you're telling people to join in the feds and government. You've been joined in 67. Shame, shame. I got the text. I'm so glad you won't be coming back to Oakland. Stay away. Don't ever come back. Inshallah, our community is doing well by Allah's permission. Snitching reams.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I just wanted you to read that to kind of get into it. It covers several subjects from 67 and let's say up to now. I don't know if anyone here would know, but in Oakland we had what we call East Oakland Enterprises. East Oakland Enterprises technically started in 1968. This was around the same time Martin Luther King was executed or assassinated. Martin Luther King had went to Chicago to inaugurate his down-home economic program because he saw that just voting and what have you would not solve any of the problems. You know, that you had to have some economic base. That's why he was finally killed at the garbage man strike down in Memphis, Tennessee. So Martin Luther King realized around the same time we'd come to a conclusion. Martin Luther King never got a chance to inaugurate or to develop his economic program. But in Oakland, California, we got a chance to do that. Now, there's going to be a funeral coming up very soon I have to go to in Oakland. And it's from one of our brothers that was in our organization. In fact, number 3. The leadership structure was myself and then the communications director or the people that handled acquiring what we needed to do, whatever business we do, was right under me, an old friend from since we was teenagers. And then the overall manager of the crew was the guys under us. They had came in, and this brother, we used to call him Mellow Mike, he was over the crew that he brought in with him was all Panther orientated. So he would supervise. This is the structure we had. And everybody, now that I'm telling them, they'll look at it, they said they did have that structure. The leadership structure, who's the overall leader, the one that procures whatever product it is that you handle, right? And then the one that distributes and manages, and that's what he used to do. Now, myself and my friend, we were the oldest. And when I met this brother that just passed away, maybe I was 22 or 23. And I told him, I said, young blood, you want to drive Cadillacs? He said, yes, sir. And within a hot minute, he was driving Cadillacs. And in fact, a lot of the brothers in the organization had new Cadillacs, like big Brohams. What I would do is, they got a regular salary, but they wouldn't save money. So I would set something aside for them. And that's where people thought, oh man, he's just buying everybody Cadillacs. Well, technically they had earned it. They didn't expect it, but I was estimating their value in what we was doing. They just thought it was a big, this is fun, you know what I mean? Hanging out with everybody, you know, dealing, all of that. But to me, I had studied management, you know, the principles of management. And so the way I was looking at it is, I was a manager. The other brother was the vice president or the functionary that, you know, handled procuring and everything like that. And then there was an overall supervisor. Now I'm running it, basically everybody's, you know, hanging out in it, but that's the real structure. And it was unbelievable. I mean, we broke all records in Oakland. It's just unbelievable what we did at that time. I mentioned at the time 1968 because that was a time when we coined, 68 and 69, when we coined the phrase and the name East Oakland Enterprises. And what that meant was that right there in Oakland, I had some friends that were boxers, and if they're watching, they'll verify. Okay, so if they wasn't getting the fights that they wanted, I would front them the money, get the Oakland Auditorium, and they get and then they would put on their own fights. Now, if it didn't fly, it wasn't because they didn't have the backing, and I would do this several times, and after a while, you would see that they wasn't at that level of management yet. Remember, we're all kind of young, and all of this management and handling, in your early 20s, and yeah, it was, who has that skill? And plus, we'd not been in the military, we hadn't been, of course, we'd been in a lot of jails, so you get some little organizational structure. But anyway, that was a structure, but there was an ideology behind what we was doing, but we never talked about it to the public. We never talked about that ideology to the public. And so, let me see what this says. Can you see what this says?
No, it's just, we just read off some stuff from her, so that's most likely.
Okay. No. That's the reason I wanted to run it off, so that it would be, eventually, very soon, I'm going out there this week, but I may come back for Eid and then go out there on a semi-permanent basis. Okay, I'm going out there to take care of business. You know what I mean? This time, they're not going to be able to just run their mouth about, look, you could tell that what we was doing was serious now because, like we always show this, Imam Jamil been in prison over 20 years. Imam Lukman is dead. And here's me. Everybody, you don't even have to know how to read and write to understand what that means. That's an open threat. That's a clear threat from everybody. And it's saying what it's all about. Revolution from Egypt to the Americas. This stuff here, this is right at the time of, what was that in Egypt they was having years ago? Tahrir Square. Okay, now? Okay, this is a front page on a newspaper from overseas. And you could see section by section. Each one has a headline. It's organized. I gave that at the University of Tehran, and I'm talking to the people about how Iran should be organized at that time, how to visualize what you want to be, and then how to get people to cooperate to get there. And the people liked it so much, they translated it, and next thing I know, it's on the front page of the political newspaper. Okay, so I say, hey man, I better get one of those now. This is, of course, pictures with the Rahbar and everything. I know everybody's seen that. Now, this is a picture of the dear brother. And the brother was assaulted in Oakland by the people who are calling here all the time. And no, by the people who can do what they want without any government intervention. In fact, it's all with government aid and government assistance. Because no matter what happened, I went to court 3 years ago, and the fastest jury in the West, without me even saying what I really wanted to say, the jury walked in the jury, where they have big food and cakes and pineapple, all that stuff outside the jury room. They didn't touch it. They walked right in, and then walked on out. I walked out of the courtroom and maybe walked around the block, and I got a phone call. They said the jury's back and he was found not guilty. Okay. This is police. You see, these are Latino police. All the police at the Masjid, all the police that arrest me in Oakland are either Latinos or white. No black police, none. Well, and why? Because there's a whole police department full of black police. Because they all know the story. The black police in Oakland, the last time I was at a program out there, hey man, and not even looking, but it was at a program at Defirmary Park, what they call now Bobby Hutton Park, where they used to have all the demonstrations, Panthers and all that. And these are people that I know. And I know some of them are undercover police. All they're telling me is how they respect we respect what you've been doing and trying to do. And they're not even looking at me like, you're just talking and, picking a piece of grass. And these are people I've been knowing all my life. I've been knowing very well for the last 45, 50 years. And they're like the guys here. They're undercover police. And I know what they are. And they done said to me, I don't know, we're proud of you. Because some of them were infiltrated a little bit in what we was doing, to get more information and all that. And then they know when I stop that, they know that I don't do that. You know what I mean? They know all of that because they all right there. And they said, man, we're proud of you, And almost the white FBI almost said the same thing when they come to the Masjid in 87. I come hollered at them, told them to get on out. And I said, am I doing anything wrong over here? They said, no, you're doing very well. In other words, they didn't have the FBI. And all of them are shocked because there's certain rules. Once you get in the game, you don't get out, and you do like many of my old friends. They either turn snitches or they've been for years and years going back. They get out and they go back and they go back. And finally they just get old and die. But here it is at the top of the career. I stop. Okay. Now I have to let you know that whatever these people, I'm not going to call them crackpots or names or anything like that. I don't care what they're talking about because everybody in Oakland already knows the story. Number one, if they're talking about somebody with the police, here's a guy, Mukhtar is standing here almost holding the police's hand. I'm in there trying to clean my internal stuff out, you can see, and here they are, and here he is right here. Like he called the police, and none of them have a right. He don't have a right, and they don't have a right. And the people in the masjid, they don't have a right. Now, Abdul Malik them and everybody in Oakland knows that story. They thought about peer group pressure. If all of them was on one side and said one thing, and I'm on this side by myself saying something different, that I would eventually just... and they do studies on that type of thing. They do studies on it. That people don't hold up on that. It's simple studies. And I never even had the hint at not following through on exactly what I was doing, to the point that we gained control over them. That's why we use terms like discombobulated and, white man on the line. In other words, when you get a fish on the line, you now controlling, that person is hooked, or that fish is hooked. Unless he snapped the line or something, you can control it. You could tire them out. You could do whatever you want because you got them hooked. Of course, y'all know that we have been studying what we've been doing in detail all these years. And so we went through several phases ourselves. One of the reasons I want to get out to Oakland and begin to clear up these things is not mainly because I'm tired of these people, which eventually you can get tired of, but I'm not tired in the way like, hey man, y'all ought to leave me alone. That's why I bring my phone with me sometimes. I just want them to call. And that means I got their behind hooked. They ain't got nothing. When I get a call, I look, I see the number. If I want to answer it, I answer it. If I don't want to answer it, I don't answer it. And if I don't answer it, they call and call it, make some more, they know I'm here and they want to call. And they got pictures of my pictures that they don't supposed to have, all that stuff. And they put them up here to show me that whatever I'm doing out here, I'm linked in. They are linked in with people here. It's stuff that I've been knowing all my life. I've been knowing that. I told a friend a couple of years ago, I said, remember when we made that first run? It was just me and you from Colombia from Bogota to Mexico City? Yeah. And I said and in Mexico City, it was a white woman and a black woman that was kind of following us around. When we turn this way, we turn that way. I said, yeah. I said, within a half an hour, we had got with them and packed up the blow on them. He said, yeah. I said, would anybody sane do that unless he knew who they was? I said, they was the police. They was there to help us move it across. Because the first shipment, you almost want to get in on it. I did get in on it. So we said, I wouldn't come inside this country, but I'd help it get to Mexico. And then after that, it was all smooth sailing. But the point is, when I told my partner, and he's a little bit older than me, the same year, but the point is, a lot of people are dying out. When each person dies, a big chunk of the story dies. So here's a supervisor that was managing all of them, and when they all come, they was Black Panther orientated. In fact, Johnny Bethia was Mellow Mike's best friend, but Johnny Bethia, we used to call him Shotgun. He went to Sacramento with everybody, and all of that was known right there. Everybody, and so he was over security. The supervisor was Mike, and Johnny Bethia, Shotgun, was over our security, Although his organization, can you imagine, they never even beat nobody up, never even, and I was talking to Mike about that a year or two ago. He said, yeah, we would have did it if you would have told us to. I said, I know you would. Y'all was wanting to do something gangster, because everybody's playing the gangster role. And when you're young, you want to use that authority. And here Santa Claus is the leader of the organization. So you got to be friendly with everybody. You got to help old ladies across the street, stuff like that. I mean, like we had one house, where we distributed certain things. The church was right over here, and our little house was right over there on 8th Street. Anyway, and my mother and all my family went to this big church. So, shoot, on Sunday morning when they come and they would park by a little distribution center, we would all stand up. You know what I mean? Oh, what you boys doing? Oh, we ain't doing nothing. We just, that type. It was really, that was the kind of community Oakland was at that time. Later on, other guys took over. And I'm saying this because I expect some attention to be paid to this. When people like Felix Mitchell and guys like that took over, they had a dynamite organization. Boy, but they was beating up people's mama. They was killing people. And the death toll went sky high. I don't even remember anybody getting killed during our time. I don't even remember. Maybe somebody did, but so that means there's years when, the Santa Claus, call it Santa Claus leadership. It was like, no, can you imagine? Now, suppose you want to buy a house. Now, in the movie, you go to the Godfather, Godfather, this, that. Suppose the Godfather is 22, 23 years old. So you come in, hey, man, my family, I trying to get a little house up the street. Da, da, da. Well, how much you need? Oh, here you go. And, man, I'm starting a little business and I can't get no customer. Well, I know business is hard to get started. What you need to hold you over. And how long you gonna need it for? Man, if I can last 6 months, I'll be in the breed, whatever they got, a black man, I'll be having this going on. And most of it was true. So we were economic enterprise. And they can call, like right now, Mukhtar and Khadijah talking out the side of their mouth. Ask them one thing they have done in Oakland. Ask them what they've done at the Masjid. Most of the time in the last 10, 12 years that they've been there, the water has been off, the ceilings be falling. Remember saw the picture? And once they get it looking halfway decent, they send me a picture. See, we doing it over here. I said, for 5 years, the place was falling down. And the police tell you to fix it up and send some pictures, maybe to make me mad or something stupid like that. Okay, the point is that right now, since the people are passing away that remember what we were doing, it's time now to tell that part of the story. That there was in the United States only one black economic enterprise zone. Now, everybody could tell you, what he said was happening. If some of his friends was boxers, he would tell them, get the auditorium. That means you get the Oakland auditorium, you get all of this, that, and other, and just give me back what I gave you and any tickets, anything. Okay. We're all in our early 20s. What really happened is the people didn't have management skill at that age. And now if they'd been to the university, they might have read a book on management and leadership, so they'd have just a general idea. Okay. So what happened was when the police came and they saw, remember I show you one picture that has a picture, it looks like a Black Panther outfit, with the black leather jacket, all that. Then I had another one with all the big white mink and black and white mink and all of that. And I said, this right here is a disguise. Okay, at that time I had enough sense to read the newspapers and I knew everybody like this are getting killed. Not only in Oakland, all over the country, there's an open season. Wearing this stuff right here is the same as wearing a target. And you can be shot on sight. So I took that off, and the other is a disguise. If they think that you, a low-class Negro, gonna spend all your money on pretty clothes and big cars, so I brought a whole slew of cars. I just brought cars. I'd buy cars all the time. Just another car, park them over here, and I had to pay somebody to wash them and drive them, everything, But for those 2 years, from 1968 to 1970, we had a free ride. Okay, now that's 2 years, not a long time now, but it was a long time then. So all of a sudden, they realize what we're doing. The police, because every time something come up and people are studying, they say, man, this guy has more employees than the city of Oakland. Like they got the city of D.C. hire all of, and they was counting these employees, and they were counting the people. And one of my partners told me, hey man, you got more people working for you than the city. Now you got to think about that. That means in a city like D.C., okay, Oakland, well, let's say 400,000 people, D.C. at that time, maybe 500,000. So that means all them city people driving trucks and all of them doing this, what they do around. Our organization got that many people working for it. They're all paying, right, their taxes. They're all living in houses that they either rent or buy, right? That means that that's why Oakland it has such when they talk about that era, all the friends that we have, when they talk about an era that's fun and not, they keep going back 50 years. I said, I'm not into that no more. That was 1,000 years ago. I have to keep notes to memorize, but for them, that was the high point of life, see? And that's what everybody realizes, that when they think about the high point in life, they think back to that era. Jobs, homes, cars, fun. And it's all black. You know what I mean? It's all black. And that was kind of like Martin Luther King's idea about black economic enterprise zones, right? Now you can imagine when I come home from prison and when I go all over the world, when I do all of that, when I came back on this side, when I went places like, you could check with anybody who was in exile at that time, we gave them money. They didn't give us money. We took money to them. And people like Dr. John Branyan said, I wouldn't have gave them all that money. Can you imagine? After you get so much money, what are you going to do with it? Tell the truth. After you got all the cars you can think of, okay, this is what they're worried about. Now imagine what we did right here in D.C. with all these people, we won't call them police or nothing because we don't care. They work for the city or whoever, or the government, it's okay. But look what we did right here, and add that with what we did around the country, right? And what things were like around here 10, 15 years ago, right? It was the hub. All the demonstrations, all of this, that, right? It was the hub. Okay. And that was without, we couldn't pay all kind of salaries. We couldn't do all that. But the hub of activity here, out there, it was active. Now, can you imagine? They come around, some people come around, and they don't produce nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right? And they're trying to convince you. See, you got to remember, when all the people is on one side against you, they're trying to convince you. And they're trying to use that old psychological peer group pressure thing. If everybody say this, right, you're by yourself. What do you say? Well, I say just what I'm telling them now. Y'all blew it. You did it, and remember, they did all this dumb stuff out in the open for the world to see. So what can they say to us? If you go back to the gangster period, to the black period, right? We're the only people that was here in America that left and helped the movement overseas. Nobody, I'm sorry. Nobody helped them. They was over there by themselves with no help from except a little stipend that they might get from the Algerian government, which is going to be enough for soup and beans and stuff. Right? But you're not going to be able to go over here, go over there and do all. You're not going to be mobile. And the people here, they're under so much pressure, they ain't got no money to send you. They're raiding Panther headquarters and all the black liberation offices all over America. They're raiding them, putting them in jail, shooting them down in the street. You know what I mean? So nobody can raise money for you and you over there sad. That's why many of them would come back. Like Sekou came back, Imam Jamil them came back. Why? They couldn't make a living over there. That's why they came back. I didn't come back for that reason. I came back because I had made a living, and I came back over here and really made a living. Now imagine when you come back out of exile, which everybody knows this in Oakland, right? Everybody already knows this in Oakland. That we brought everything to another level. This is not the 60s now, late 60s. This is the early 70s. This is the end of the black movement as a force in the black community, not rhetoric, right? Everybody's still talking black talk, slapping hands and all that. But the force, the organizational structure of black movement is dead by 72. Okay, right in the middle of 72, we sending blow up here, and at that time it's blow. It ain't to go to poor black people, it's to go to rich black people and rich white people, because it's not crack. In those days, it's powder. This powder. And nobody don't even know about no crack. Ain't no crack out. So it's all, you're getting all your wealth from elite people. This is elite only. That's who you're dealing with. Everybody is, you ain't dealing with no poor, broke people. Okay? So now when you organize all of that, and everybody that's involved in that pops up rich, because when you go back overseas and you look for the people, I give an example. We had a meeting at party headquarters in 71, and I was telling da-da-da-da. They said, well, we don't do none of that. I said, don't worry, I'll go and do it myself. So I came over 2 years later. When I come back, I go right back to Algeria with bags of money for the movement, for them. They're not there. They're gone. The first batch of money that I gave them, they used that to go all over. They could send, one could go to Zambia, Pete could go to, they got enough money now to leave Algeria. They want to go to Black Africa, which they did. And Eldridge Cleaver came back here in the early 70s. He came back here, okay. We went to South America and we did business to produce wealth for the black movement. The black movement don't exist anymore. Like they're not going to come back and take over America like what we thought. Okay, we'll get you guys get all trained up and I'll go get the money and come back and then y'all go back and take over America. It's a nice dream. When you're young, you can, not realizing that they may not even want to, they wasn't in no hurry to get back over here tussling with the boss man. None of them was. No, that's not correct. So my point is, we have a long period of history with this. And the people that know about certain parts of it are dying. Out of our leadership structure, actually, I'm the only one left. And then out of the workers, it's only a few of them left. So that's why I have to go out here and clarify what we've been doing in words. Because, see, they knew East Oakland Enterprises, but they didn't know the goals and the purpose and the aims of it was to have full employment for black people, right? Now, that's back over 50 years ago. What are the Negroes doing now? They talking about what they was doing, or what people coming to dinner? Or what about what else? What are you doing? These people sold the property. We'll get it back. Don't worry about it. Okay, we're going to sue them. First, we was going to sue them for $150 million. Now, first $100 million, then $150. And now they keep talking. So now we done took it up to $200 million. You said that's a lot of money. Well, you add up over 40 years, and you raised thousands of dollars for this masjid, and they closed it down. You buy cash money, 40 cars. Just 40 cars. You could see them, right? And they all just stopped running. Click, 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 boop. And 2 days before that, they was running perfectly, right? All right. Only the sinners, the rents and the possibility, we don't say if, but perhaps they were left alone. We could have 100 sinners right now, easy. Easy. If we were operating 10 under all that pressure, imagine how many groups in the 70s lasted doing what we do right now, right this minute, just cruising along, that owns property. They didn't get to own no property. They didn't get to do none of that. Okay, so when we say $200 million, that means the feds, and it has to be the feds that tell the bank, give that Negro, it just don't happen. Put that Negro on the account and take him off the account. Right? They can't do that. Okay? So what have we done? We've trapped them. They're trapped. They're trapped. Suppose they don't listen. We'll just write all our articles about it. Pretty soon somebody will say, is any of that true? Of course, we're going to go to court. We're going to get them in court, drag them through court. And that's what our demands are. Our demands are $200 million. Because in Germany, if you back over a tree, in the military, the tank, the Germans charge you for that tree and all the possible trees it might have produced. That makes sense. So now I want you to think about after 45 years, let's say 40 years plus, if we were able to do, not just imagine doing what they might call the heyday of right here, just what we were doing in D.C. But imagine all around the country, universities, right? Okay. We're charging the government for all that. Number one, you ain't had a right to do none of that. You definitely don't have a right to sell our property. You don't have, and they even, the Negro, if he had $1 million, which maybe they sold one of the properties, the Negro would be gone. He ain't got nothing. He ain't got that money. They put his name on there, but he ain't got that. Even if he had the money we had in our account, him and that girl, them niggas would be gone back to Arkansas, wherever they from. Yeah, anywhere, they'd be gone. In other words, they don't give them the money, right? They don't have none of it. They don't have none. And then why would they keep sitting talking to me about it? Well, if you got the money, enjoy yourself. No. That's why things about patience, compassion, love, kindness, all of that stuff is top of the line. Without it, we wouldn't be able to do nothing. If there was any bitterness at all. And the secret, I don't mean to go from place to place, but the secret of everything is that they've been going off of what they thought I would do under certain circumstances. I mean, they asked my sons, they asked my ex-wife, and they told them about things during the 6 months of the worst period when, when you have tension building up, you're in your early 20s, you know what I mean, and you're snapping at this and snapping at that. They're not talking about some years later or even months later. Remember I was telling you I was looking at a picture. I said, when I looked at that picture, I said, boy, that nigga there is somebody else. That's all true. They're judging me based on that. The police was judging me based on that. The police was judging me based on, and my son and all of them, based on a fight he had in front of the Masjid in 81 with another 14, 15-year-old. And I'm telling them, do this to that nigga, do that to that, you know what I mean? And they're basing it on 1983, beating these guys with iron. That's what they're basing it on. So they figure, here's a dummy. If I do this to that man, he's going to blow it. He's going to do this, that, and another, and we can kill him. Right? And none of it never worked. None of it never worked because they just jumped over evolution like you would be the same that you was 50 years ago or 45 years ago. The people is dumb. They don't take into consideration Islam and its ability to help you evolve. And that all the stuff that Islam talks about, love, kindness, forgiveness, they don't believe that themselves, and they don't believe you can do it. And that's where all of this behavior, this dumb behavior come from. That's where it all is. They're talking about now the people know who you was. After 50 years of saying, you got to keep your eye on boss, man, finally we come to a rational conclusion. Just think about it. That, okay, people, boss man ain't paying no attention to nothing, and he don't care about nothing. All right. So that means within a short time, it's going to be pretty bad around here. You know. It's just think. We've been talking about it all week long. It's 100 and something degrees in Portland, Oregon, 115 in Seattle. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? That's unbelievable. That's 43 degrees above normal. And guess what? Half the people in Seattle and Portland, what they don't have air conditioning. Why? Because it's never like the people in Europe a few years ago. When all that heat wave, they were dying because they didn't have air conditioning in France. Because it gets warm, but it don't get that hot. And that's why they can grow these wonderful grapes in certain counties, by the temperature. They know they can. They got champagne, they got this, they got that, because these grapes grow in certain, all right. So with all of that going on, they don't think that the Negro has the ability to evolve, and especially with kindness and all that. That's why, think about the videos. I'm telling the people, you stand down, you stay out of my business, right? Because these people, that's where they're trying to get you. Negroes killing Negroes. After you kill 2 or 3 Negroes, one side on each, the people forget about how the war started. That's why in the Jahiliyyah, we didn't even beat nobody up, and we had the strongest organization in Oakland in those days, right? So just imagine when we develop and evolve, and we know about the Rahmah of Allah, Arham, and all that stuff, it's easy. That's what they didn't understand. They never understood none of that. And they never thought that this is what we was going to do. That's why we discombobulated Boss Man. That's why he's totally mismanaged everything. And he's going out the door and he's trying to take everybody down. Now, while he's doing that, while it's 100 and something degrees up in the coolest place in the United States, weather-wise, up in Seattle, Washington, right on the border with Canada. And all of these programs being developed, with all of that ignorance going on, we say it's almost mathematical, it's intuitive, it's a scientific social approach. Okay, how much time do black people have to do something for themselves? How much time do humanity have to do? Okay. Don't look like they got too much time. So that means our policy from last year and years on back, maximum patience, just kick back and let it all, we don't have that time anymore. It's a different time. Well, what time is it then? This time, let's see, what do we have going for ourselves? What do we have working against us? Well, even the police departments, people are quitting by the bucket load. Good. The white people are quitting, fill it up with black people. They're saying that's snitching. Didn't they say that? That's snitching. The God finally showed you where you was, where we know where you coming from. Coming from, what is your idiot? What program do you have? What national program do you have? Black people are under the gun. How many demonstrations you been out to trying to explain to people what some of the options are? Not one. Right? And so Are we at a disadvantage? No, we got them on the line. Niggas on the line and boss man on the line. We could reel in or we could snap and they hooked. They got to do stuff to us. And they do. There's all, whatever cars, all that stuff. They do stuff to our property, but that ain't nothing. The point is, it develops the characteristics that you need for the long haul. We always talk about As-Sabru Jamil and a beautiful patience, right? As-Sabru wa Nifsul Iman. Patience is half of faith. Of course, getting married is too, but this patience, this long-lasting patience, to put up with this over a period of years, to have the foresight and the discipline to look around America and to try evolutionary stages with enough sequences to see what level this goes to, how is this stopped, and to really get a feel of what you're doing. And then you come out with, look, well, don't look like we have too much time left. It's just, okay. If 3 years ago, it was 68 and 70 degrees within the Arctic Circle, right? They had forest fires within the Arctic Circle. Good God Almighty. What else more? When it says there's signs in the universe and signs in yourselves, what do people need? These crackpots, and I call them crackpots because, and I told them I'm going to help them because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're following boss man, and boss man has he ain't got nothing on the agenda, right, to solve anything. He don't have nothing on the agenda. That means with the earth. See, I believe that these times are commensurate with the times in which we live. Before historical periods, that was when people messed up, they was messing up in their local area. They had their local regional profit. It wasn't going to destroy the earth. But now we've got so sophisticated that that's the threat for us in our time is the same in those days, right? And I believe that we're going to meet these threats. But you got to be dug in. You can't be no flim-flam Negro and it's over 40 degrees in one city. It's cool all year round, right? Or to be able to approach the people and say, look, this is what they've done. This is, Chairman Fred, how they did, and use all that on our campuses. You ask the Negro, ask them, what program y'all, what you gonna sit there and have a dinner? What's the dinner why are you there? You notice no matter what you look at on this thing, they have no platform, no program, but nothing but to sell wolf tickets to me. And I'm not going to fight them or beat them up. They're wasting their time. Plus, the urgency of the situation. All that water and stuff in Greenland is fresh water, fresh water. Nice distilled water. And it's melting. Have you ever seen some of those ice caps, the way they're like wide rivers, just fresh water running into the ocean? Have anybody seen any of those? Yeah, them documentaries. They ain't talking about none of that, as though, right? Or in the Negro, the people. Okay, but right, just like all other subjects we spoke on, we weren't supposed to speak on. We're not supposed to speak on Zionism. We're not supposed to be with people around the world. All those are real no-nos. But when we travel around the world, that's what we realize. Wait a minute, we're world citizens. We're not Negro citizens only. And then, no, when you get involved with other people and people are listening to you, and they appreciating, they said, oh, okay. So that means we have influence, but we have to be in position. We have to be up with people. Imagine how happy the Save the Whalers will be when they realize it's Negroes that have some experience that are really interested in saving their whales. And they're not their whales, they're the whales they want to save for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Okay. The Negroes are living back in the Stone Age. Their dialogue is Stone Age. Fred what's his name? Fred Flintstone. Yeah, Yabba Dabba Doo. That's them. That's them. That's Yabba Dabba Doo them. Tell the truth. They don't make sense. They're like pushing a car with their feet. The Stone Age blockheads, like the wheel is a block. Okay. So I'm glad that they sent a few messages because we are so far beyond that type of thing, but we have to review psychotic behavior. So as we move forward, which we are, we have to do it with the knowledge that, hey, if we don't do it, and we knew you were the police all the time. Well, no. The police, they're taking me to jail. The police is taking me to jail. And the police is beating me, is got me with my hands in back. And the police said, I'm not, he's the one standing there. Look at him. He's the one, see, there he is. And they don't have no right to do that. That's all good. Okay, so we're going back to California to try to ameliorate that. Although my belief is we'll go back, attend the funeral, and explain a few things that nobody knew about, and then come back here for Eid, and then going back out there. And in the meantime, write a lot. Sometimes we'll write and send the stuff here and print it out, whatever, correct it. But that's the stage we're in now. We're in a new functional stage. And what we've been doing, it's okay. We could have had certain things happening, but that was the time. Just to cruise and take it easy, okay. So that's what we did. Okay, that's looking at the signs in the universe and in yourself. That's what the Quran say, right? So that means we have a program that coincides with our time, place, circumstance, and also imagine our age and our other stuff too, right? And also what they're thinking. One of the old timers was here, and he was saying maybe they don't bother you no more because they think you're old and this and that. I said, yeah, that's probably one of their thoughts, and we're going to try to help them keep thinking that. But it's like what we was talking about today, longevity, you know. Yeah, longevity. Anyway, let me kind of curtail this. I'm going to explain in the future Stalingrad to Oakland. We have lectures on that. But Stalingrad to Oakland will explain our view of when we think about movement. I want you to think about 5 out of 6 Russians. 5 out of 6 Germans that was killed in World War II was killed by Russians on the eastern, what they call the Eastern Front. Yeah. It wasn't D-Day. They, of course, we didn't know any better, so we thought the Allied invasion, D-Day, June the 6th, yeah. It's one World War II and, all of that. That wasn't it. That wasn't it at all. Is the Russians gave up 27 million, 26 million, 25 million. Millions of people to give them people time to do what they wanted to do. Right? Stalingrad was where they stopped them at. Oakland is where we stopped the white man's movement, boss man. He was stopped in Oakland. He didn't expect it. He had planned all his big charade, but we stopped his behind in Oakland. He ain't been able to go no further. Now is the big retreat back, and he ain't gonna make it back. And everything in the environment been unified to make sure he's not gonna make it back. We have nothing to do with this weather. We have nothing to do with this climate, right? We have nothing to do with the attitude of black people where they don't trust the system anymore, right? We had nothing to do with George Floyd and all. We had nothing to do with all of that. But we have to use all of that for the benefit of black people. Why, dummy? And I'm talking to you dummies right now. Are you such an idiot that you don't understand that bossman always throws the Negro, the Indian, the poor people overboard? Right? It's just like right now. You're under the gun because you've used up your usefulness. You ought to be careful because, not for me, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you. But I have people all the time that after their usefulness is up, boss man gets rid of them. He show you that on any movie. You have no use anymore. Right? But boss man, it's out of my hands. My hands is tied. Hey, see, here's what y'all need. Y'all need some patience. This is the poor people calling. And remember, we used to have the crackpot line. This is the crackpot line. If you could see it, these are people who we classify as crackpots, but we love them. We love them. We never call them about nothing. No matter what they do, we don't call them. They call us. They call us. That's why we call it crackpots on the line. So what we're doing, physically, they've done everything to us. I ain't never had the police come and put them in jail in our masjid. Never. They rob and steal and burglarize, and they take anything they want that's on our property. And they've been doing it for over a decade. That's because that's the game. It's not the game. That's the strategy we've been using. We don't have much. We don't have an army. We don't have a navy. We don't have a Marine Corps. You got to use your brain and your heart, right? And if you're right, you got to stick to it. No matter what it looks like, you have to wait until, if it calls for waiting, you have to wait till the environment change, until the wind is blowing in your direction, right? That's what we've done. We're not bragging, but we've broken all records. They never thought no Negroes could do this. These niggas don't have that much patience. They don't have vision. We can teach them to work, but they can never visualize the great da-da-da-da-da. When a Negro can out-visualize anybody, it just never gave him a chance. But now, we say that now is time to adopt a principle that everybody's already trained for. And I say it's a simple principle. They're all working in the police department already. And they telling me I'm a snitch. A snitch? Hell, you can stand there with the police, you don't see him pointing, but there he is right there. That's Mukhtar, Ali Mujahid. Mukhtar they gave him our property. We'll get it all back. That's why we're going up to 200 million. We're going up to 200 million above the other millions is because the job that we have to do is so big, and that won't solve the problem anyway. But if we as black people can have that amount of money, and they can see us using it for the homeless, using it for the helpless, right? Using it for everything that the government should do. Remember that we got to get this stuff. Someone has to make a big statement like that. Bezos and them, they're not going to take their billion and say, I think the nigga's right. Let's do this for the good of the world. We want all that money to make a good statement so the world will say, if the nigga can do that, we can do it. The white folks and all the other peoples in the world, they can say, shoot, the nigga got $200 million and sleeping on the floor with a fan in the hot summer, right? If he can do that and he eats cans of beans, you leave some beans there, that's the beans he's eating, right? If they see us do it, okay. We're not saying this is the only ways out, but this is a ways out that we see where we can contribute. You see what I mean? Where we can contribute. So we'll go in the courts. I don't care how many articles, how many books, how many yeses or nos, but we'll do that till we get some results. Whatever the results are, we will use it for the benefit of humanity. Because, see, they're comfortable with the way it is. And I used to say, I ain't scared of nothing. I'm just comfortable and lovey-dovey as I can be. And happy, what was we talking about? Self-contented and all of that. Well, that was then. I'm contented for myself, but for all the Negroes and all other people that's not even thinking about this, for all the homeless, hey, suppose we can do a little help. Okay. They don't think Negroes think like that's their problem. It's not our problem. You see what I mean? That's the taste that we have in our mouth now. That's what we're going to try to do. And it's always been about optimism, kindness, and all of that stuff. That's what it's about. The other stuff don't matter. And I'll move toward a close with this in mind. All the stuff everybody said you should have kept for yourself years ago instead of sharing it with everybody else, that's a bunch of jive. I didn't. Once I spent 6 stacks of money and saw that it don't do nothing, why should I spend 7 stacks? That's the problem. People will spend them stacks and stacks and then say, maybe I didn't spend enough. Maybe I didn't get enough. They only have $100 million. I bet you if I had 2, I could get, they don't do, well, I didn't do that. After I got a certain distance, I said, this ain't what it's laid out to be. So I started living like I live now, even when I was in South America. And I said, oh, this is what it is. To have it, I have access to it, but let everybody else have it. They're the ones that love it. It ain't going to do me no good, right? Why should I have something that's not going to do me any good, right? This is the way we look at it. And just remember, Stalingrad to Oakland, which includes D.C. We don't know what the near future is going to bring. Only Allah knows the future. But we know that we should have big historical thinking. And that let white folks quit the police department. It makes more room for us. When I say more room for us, it means more room for people who are at least human or semi-human with the possibility of human development. You know what I mean? Not monsters. Right now, they're actually monsters. Nobody could do the stuff they're doing and just keep rolling and hey, it ain't, hey, bump that, right? And so that's where we at. So we're going to try to wrap this stuff up, get on out there and get back as soon as possible, and then get back out there and what have you. Are there any questions or any comments about it? Go ahead.
Before I came to class, I was listening to the radio.
Right.
And they basically mentioned Marion Barry.
Okay.
And they mentioned Marion Barry because when Marion Barry came to D.C., people don't know that he was a scientist. He had a degree in science.
Right, right.
So he had come here to get a job from Mississippi, I'm pretty sure, to get a job.
Right.
But the guy was saying at that time, the only level in the government that a black person could get was a level 7.
Right, right.
So Marion Barry joined the
Rat Patrol. Go ahead, right.
He became a city councilman.
Right.
And he won. And what he did was he started hiring people. He came up with a program where black people who work for the city could reach, I guess, whatever a higher level.
Right, right.
And black people started leaving the federal government to come and work
For the city government.
for the city government. Right. And the guy who was saying this said that's when the government came after him.
Right.
And he said, and so this was a black cop that was selling the store.
Right.
And he was saying, so all that we saw, the setup,
right.
when he got sick, they went after him.
Right. Right.
At that time, a black man trying to help his people.
Yeah.
And this is the result. They go after you
Right.
because you bring in, you get black people middle class jobs and
Yes.
all this. And even at that time,
Right.
they didn't like that.
No, of course they did. They didn't like it, and they didn't like it here, and they didn't like it nowhere else,
Right.
and they never have liked it. And they killed Martin Luther King as soon as he started talking that economic talk, And when he moved to Chicago, and when he was working with black gangs, Peace Stone Nation, and all of that. And that's why, yeah.
We actually, not to cut you off, but we actually read some research where he wanted to, like you talk about sleeping under a bridge. When he moved his family to Chicago, he wanted to give them this life of this is how rough it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and the way the story went, his kids start having emotional problems.
Right.
So he moved them back down south.
Yeah.
So when you think about it,
Right.
you got a middle class life down
Right.
south,
Right.
that cracker.
Right.
But being in the urban city, you got to deal with that type of life.
Right.
It was rough.
No, see, every generation, we had we passed through that generation, and we learned all the lessons, not all of them, from that generation. So as we go into, we have passed through so many levels of experience that it's good. There's no basic surprises.
And you have a right to come up with this, with whatever analysis you see that is beneficial.
Not only is beneficial, but to tell you the truth, when you're dealing with time, place, and circumstances, there's not enough time for us to raise the Islamic flag over this. And plus, boss man technically will hobble you all along the way. And you can't stop him from loading you up and pulling everybody out. So you would use up all of your energy trying to go through something that at this period would not appear to work. So when we looked at that movie about Judas something or other, and we said, well, they've told enough about what they already do, and then they had a Lady Day, and so that's enough for black youth to understand where they really are. Also, it's enough for us to propagate that join in with the system, but don't forget who you are, where you came from, and some unchangeable things like them. They're not gonna, you know what I mean? They're not gonna change. And you owe it to yourself. Just think of the Negroes talking all that, the big time Muslim Negroes. They just telling the people to join up to the government for your future and for employment and all of that. And they leave out, all that's good, but they leave out the element of the historical realities of what is a big possibility of happening. See, this is the world we're living in. That picture that Boss Man got, first of all, he don't care about his own people anymore. He don't need them. They were only useful when you could get them to kill and lynch black people. But now, hey, forget it, Therefore, We have to protect ourselves. Therefore, we have to have the organization. We should have use of weapons, knowledge of weapons. We should have access to the resources. And when they start pulling the trigger, they should contact you to pull the trigger. And you say, I ain't going to do it. Right? And you could say no because you got 35% of the system. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no other choice. I mean, we'd like to do something else. We'd like to run out and say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah, everybody join up, let's go down and just hug everybody. And that maybe not going to happen, probably. I mean, we're going to still try, but that don't look like. You have to be strategic. And I'm telling you, what happened with us, our saving force has always been that we have been rational and strategic all the time. That's why if they would have done this stuff to Imam Jamil, I don't say what he would have did, but I don't think he would have, he didn't have a temperament, do you see what I mean? To put up with this. They thought we were similar, so they kept trapping themselves in and in and in. And then they realized the person is not like what his ex-wife said. It's not like what his children said. He had tinges of that back then, but that was never him. The one he is now is who he always was, right? And now is not ashamed of it, not afraid of it, and it's fine. Okay, that's where we are now as a people. It don't make no difference. I was happy that the crackpots, not the crackpots, I'm not going to even call names, but Khadijah, Mukhtar, y'all, hey man, if you don't see who you're working for now, if you don't see boss man, he'll dump you overboard. He's already expressing the desire, and he's already collaborated with others that you're already of no account. You don't count for him. You can't do anything to him because everybody knows who you are. And for you not to have the psychological reasoning to look at the world situation and its people and see where we are as a people, and you've been up in Colorado shooting holes and everything, and you still saw the people that was up there. How many Negroes was up there with you? Was up there by yourself. Who are all those weapons specialists? White people, you dummy. Wasn't they crackers? They was crackers. And you and maybe 2-3 Negroes was up there learning weapons specialization. Hey, we with you, but we with you for truth. As far as trying to sully our little reputation, I'm sorry, the whole world already knows what we've been doing. And they know what you've been doing too. So y'all, as they said, to straighten up and fly right. Isn't that what what's the name that was saying? Yes, yeah, straighten up and fly right, like the Fly Boys wasn't. Okay, we're gonna. Are there any more questions? Again, we said to join the system to protect your people. Hey. Okay. So, are there any questions, any comments? Did anybody?
Yeah. One brother said today that he said there's a Imam from Haiti that would like to speak to you. So I
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Alhamdulillah.
There's some comments on some of the other videos from Fatima and Sunday. Yeah, this is one of the brothers from the National Unity Lecture. He had said that the U.S. carrying out its master wishes with respect to the U.S.'s movement in the Middle East, specifically
Right.
probably bringing up the 60s. So that was but, just in general, the U.S.'s movement in the Middle East could be in Zion's pockets. That was another comment. Yeah, well, how about you? He said, love you, brother. Stop going back in time with the past. That's satanic worship, bribery, gossip, usury, arrogant lying, mind going to and fro, disconnected. I am from conscious light, who caused death to come upon the mind. He wear us out all day with nothing the Creator gave sleep and resurrection. Every morning, Aman Ra.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was something like that. Okay, Aman Ra then to you, and whatever else. I just do have a little short comment. There's a past, there's a present, and then there's a future. The past, well, we have a book and we have hadith that is from Allah, and it has the past. It tells you travel on earth is a historical outlay. But when we're in this period right now, when we read the Quran, ayats in the universe, ayats in yourself, and the same old pattern of the human being just, something else gonna happen. I get Noah's son. No, I don't want to get on that boat right now. That's because this little rock or this little mountain I'm climbing up, it'll be all right. I get that. Then boop, there you go. So when we have the Quran, we have a book of the past histories of peoples and their behavior. We're from amongst those peoples. So our behavior will inculcate all the same patterns that they did, except in our time. In our time, with space travel, with all this our challenges are that big. At that time, he could save Sodom and Gomorrah, he could do that. But for this period of time, we have the ability, the people who are rescued now will rescue the past, the history, the present, and they'll rescue the future. They'll save this world for the future that's coming. That's where we're fitting in. It's not that we live in the future. We live in the present with access to the past. So the past and the present gives us a reasonable picture of what is the best thing to do at the time we're living. That's why we say what we say now. That this is the best, and it's not your rusty behind. You got wives, you got children, you got parents, right? And you can jump up and down and turn flips and Aman Ra all you want. But it's not going to save, you know what I mean? You got to be down to earth, you know what I'm saying? You got to be real, okay? And you will have to have evolved to certain levels. So when we talk about the past, we're talking about it with reference to the present and the future. And when we do that, we're following the Quran. Traveling there to see what was the end of those before you, right? So it's not getting away from the subject, it's getting into the subject. So we want to thank all of y'all very much. And dear believers, we enter this present period with all of our hopes and dreams for a good future for our family. But this is going to be a close race here. It's going to be a close call. You know what I mean? It don't look like we're just going to hit it out of the park. If we escape the heat trap, we're just going to get it home free, just barely. You know what I mean? Because boss man is playing it that close, right? The money trap, the cold trap, look, how could the world get this screwed up? Where the ocean is a sewer, the ocean that cleaned everything. And how could the air be so dirty that fresh rain comes down and it picks up the pollution on the way and it'll melt gravestones? Acid rain. Look, and the poor fish, the poor turtles, the poor animals that they looking for us and say, hey man, y'all gotta, hey man, we need, tell the truth. You can see what sense did those hadith make back in those days? That one knowledgeable man that we're gonna dare the fish and they're praying for that type of personality because their environment is polluted and nasty, and we smoked out up here and down there. They just saying, "Oh man, hey man," and they don't get no reprieve. They might swim around and find a little bit of space. Oh, this is a little fresher than over there. They might, but pretty soon the same old sludge. So we have a big job. This is a earth-saving, humanity rescuing mission. And we believe we can do it. And we're going to bring Khadijah and Mukhtar along too. We're going to bring them right along. And Hashim and Abdul Malik, no matter who they kill, they don't know any better. Right? You know, they didn't know any better and they don't know any better. So, those are the last questions? Okay. Thank you very much.